and work to ensure that they feel safe, secure, supported while in our schools, in our school community. Please join us in recognizing May as Mental Health Awareness Month. I'd like to dedicate the moment of silent meditation to the students that are struggling with mental illness, and keep them in your thoughts and prayers. But more so, we'd like to, keep in our thoughts and prayers the students that we've lost way too soon to mental illness. So if you could just please stand for the pledge and remain standing for a moment of silent meditation. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. First Board of Action or Board of Order is to recognize student athletes. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Pelletieri to introduce the coaches and introduce the students that we're recognizing tonight.
Mr. Scarborough, thank you so much. I'm going to ask Allison to go out and bring in our athletic directors and assistant and bring in our coaches. Mr. Butel, thank you. Mr. Torregrossa, thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight we really have some truly gifted and talented student athletes who are recognized tonight. We had a great winter season with our kick line, our cheer teams. All four of them really went above and beyond in their performances this year. Couldn't be prouder of them. I can't remember the last time that we had all four of them actually hit the highest pinnacle of what they can do in their season. So rather than me talk on and on and on, I'm going to bring in the coaches. They're going to talk a little about their teams and bring the kids in, and we'll go from there. So the first team we'd like to recognize is our East Arrowets and Mrs. Tuminia.
Mr. Butel, they have their outfits, so we're going to see a routine tonight in here, or?
It's up to them. I mean.
Hello, everyone. My name is Haley, and I am the head coach of the Sachem East Varsity Arrowets. We are thrilled to be here today to honor the hard work and dedication put forth by our dancers this season. We are incredibly proud of their ability to commit to our practice and performance schedule, all while maintaining their academic standings and balancing additional commitments at the dance studios where they train. This was a season filled with a return to the traditions that make our program so special, including the return to in-person competitions. We were so excited to be dancing again in front of a crowd, and we made sure to make the most of this opportunity. We are proud to announce that Sachem East is ranked first on Long Island for small varsity jazz and first on Long Island for small varsity team performance. We are also currently ranked third on Long Island for medium varsity hip hop, as well as third for small varsity kick. We concluded our season with a journey down to nationals. After competing in semifinals, all four of our dances made it into finals. Yeah. At the end, it was thank you. At the end, it was Sachem as a whole who dominated the small varsity team performance category as the top two teams in the nation. We love sharing the stage with our Sachem North Arrowet family, and we are so proud of our team this season. We congratulate the Sachem North Arrowets as well as East and North Cheer on their wonderful accomplishments. Thank you.
All right, everybody ready? Right here. 1, 2, 3. Hey, parents want to take pictures? You take one.
I'm not the parent, I'm the crazy aunt.
Well done, ladies. Well done.
Next is our Sachem East cheerleaders and Coach Akabakian.
Girls, there's some rips in your jeans. I don't know if you saw that. Did you call each other before you came? You did? No, okay. Looks like it. Looks like it.
Good evening. I would like to start by introducing the coaches of Sachem East Varsity Cheerleading. My name is Victoria Agabakian, and I am the head coach. This beside me is my assistant, Brianna Agabakian. During our first year coaching this team, we are proud to say that we have accomplished many things. First, we won 3 Section 11 competitions. Next, we traveled to Orlando, Florida, where we attended high school nationals and placed in the semifinals. Returning home, it was time to prepare for the county championships the following weekend. Having the privilege to attend this competition was a huge accomplishment for our program. It was at this championship that we then received our 4th Section 11 and became the Suffolk County champions in the large varsity division. This was the second time that this program has ever won the county championships, which then led us to the state championships. Having the opportunity to represent Sachem at states was an unforgettable experience. Bringing home a 5th place win in the finals was a great way to wrap up our season. We wanted to take this opportunity to thank our athletic directors, Dr. Pilateri, and for those who helped recognize the Sachem East cheerleading program tonight. It has been an absolute honor to coach for this district, and we look forward to the future of Sachem East cheerleading. Twice. Messed up so bad. Good. Stand up. You stand up.
If they can get tighter, turns on an angle. That should be okay, yeah? All right, everybody ready? Right here, 1, 2, 3. Okay, perfect. And parents?
Introducing our next team is the Sachem North Arouettes, and first time introducing this new coach, new name, Mrs. Desmond.
Yeah, you got it. They can go. Good evening. I actually have my old name. I just got married 2 weeks ago. So it's all very new, the new name thing. Yeah. Thanks. The new name I'm getting used to, but my name is Katie Desmond now, and I work alongside with David Masquitz. We just wanted to thank Dr. Pelletieri, the Board of Education, Mr. Larson, the entire Sachem Athletics office, especially Gary Butel and Phil Torregrossa, who show our program endless support and guidance all year long. We just wanted to thank the parents of our team who are at every event and are so amazing and supportive to their kids. So we're so thankful for that. We wanted to congratulate North Varsity Cheer, East Varsity Cheer, and East Varsity Arouettes on amazing seasons. Our district is notorious for our cheer and dance program. So we just feel very special, and it's amazing recognition to be a part of that amazing group of athletes. And last but certainly not least, our team that's in front of us, 17 amazing dancers on the Sachem North Varsity Arouettes this year. They practiced endless hours and pushed through a ton of obstacles. We got to compete in person. We got to go back to Florida and compete at NDA Nationals. We competed in 5 routines and made it to finals in all 5. Our final placements included 13th place in small varsity hip hop, 6th place in small varsity jazz, 4th place in pom, 3rd in kick, and we're proud to announce that we earned our 16th NDA National Championship title in the small varsity team performance routine. To our routine, Proud Mary, that was a real crowd pleaser. We got to close out the entire weekend of the entire competition. They had a ton of pressure on them, and our team danced amazing. And as coaches, we could not have asked for more. This is our 16th title we've earned in 10 years. So we're just so proud of you guys of being a part of that. We couldn't have done it without the amazing dancers. And I just want to recognize our 8 seniors: Alexis Katsalis, Emily Chula, Jonna LaFaro, Leah Matthews, Alyssa Paddock, Jenna Rivera, Jesslyn Vulin, and Captain Olivia Chaffee. They've been amazing leaders. They're going off to colleges such as Marist, Suffolk County Community College, St. John's University, St. Joseph's College, Fairfield University, University of Rhode Island, and Plattsburgh University. So we're super proud of them. A few of them are going to be dancing. And we just wanted to thank everybody and every athlete that's being recognized tonight. We're just so grateful to be back and have our season, and awesome job, guys. Thank you so much.
Coach, that is a killer jacket, by the way. Look at those leather sleeves. That is awesome. Good job.
Not there.
All right, ready? Here, 1, 2, 3. Parents. Practice makes perfect. Got it.
Up next is Coach Crisalfi, and introducing our New York State Championship cheerleading team from Sachem North.
It's okay for them, so I'll come in.
Hi, guys. All right, good evening, Dr. Pelletieri and fellow board members. My name is Danielle Grisalfi, and I'm the Sachem North varsity cheerleading coach. I would like to start by thanking you all for having myself, my fellow coaches, Jacqueline Totaro and Danielle Modica, and the team here today to celebrate our accomplishments this season. We said it from the start that this team was going to be special, and they proved us right all season long. Each week, they came out strong with a will to win and wanting to get better. With almost a near perfect season, the team secured 5 first-place finishes, earning them the top seed in the county championship. While practicing for counties and also nationals, the team was advocating for cheerleaders across the state so they all had the equal opportunity to attend the state championship and compete as a team. Leading up to counties, we were unsure that if we won, we would be able to attend states as a whole due to the team needing to be fully vaccinated. The athletes met with multiple news stations to voice their want to be able to compete as a team and be given the equal opportunity that every other winter sport would get. Their voices were heard, and RIT overturned the rule allowing whatever team that won counties to attend the state championship as a team. This motivated the girls to finish their Suffolk County season strong, and they did, winning their 3rd county championship title and earning them a spot in the state championship. They then traveled up to Rochester, where they competed twice on Saturday, March 5th, and ultimately took home first place in the state in the small varsity Division I category. We cannot be more proud of the athletes and individuals on this year's team, and we're honored to be able to represent Sachem and take home another state title for our school and our community. Thank you again, and we appreciate the recognition and support all season long.
All right, everybody ready? All right, right here, 1, 2, 3. All right, great.
So besides from the 4 outstanding teams we had this winter, we had a lot of strong individuals in their sport that really went above and beyond and excelled. I'm going to call some of those forward now for really achieving high honors in their sport. From our Sachem East Girls Winter Track Team, Abby Callanan, All-State. I don't think they're here right now, but Megan Hoffman was an All-American. And Arian Robinson, All-State. From our Sachem East wrestling team, we had Johnny Tejan, All-State. And Jared Winehouse, Section 11 champion. From our Sachem North cheerleading team, we had Grace Calabria, was Newsday All Long Island Cheerleader of the Year. And Alyssa Kate Giatimaso, say that 10 times fast, Newsday Second Team All Long Island. From Sachem North Wrestling, All State, Eric Weatherby. Now from our teams that are combined, they had a great winter season in the bowling area. We had boys bowling, Matthew Giamaldi, All Long Island. Also from boys bowling, Nick Walker, All Long Island. From the girls bowling team, we also had an All Long Island Athlete of the Year. As Sarah Archangel was Newsday All Long Island Girls Bowler of the Year. Shannon Darby, All Long Island. And Emily Concarney, All Long Island. I know there's a nickname that they call you three. What is it? There's a nickname. The terrific trio, right there. In boys swimming, all state, we had Christopher Vericchio. And from girls gymnastics, all state, and also Newsday All Long Island team, Riley McPartland. Riley's like here every season. I don't know. It just keeps going and going and going. Congratulations to our student athletes on your high success. Any coaches who are here, please join us. Really couldn't do it without your coaches and your support, and also from your parents. I want to get a nice picture.
All right, everybody ready? Right here, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, brings us to section 2, which is the public hearing for the discussion of the board vote and the budget vote, which will take place on May 17th. I need a motion to go into the hearing and discussion. All right, Ms. Pickowitz, second. All right, Ms. Waterworth, all in favor? Opposed? All right, it's all yours, John.
Great, thank you. I'm just waiting for the screen to warm up a little bit.
How many slides?
That's like 8. All right, good evening, everybody. Obviously, if you had joined us last week, you would have been here when the board actually adopted next year's budget, the 22-23 budget. This is the public hearing, which is a requirement as part of the process as we head towards the budget vote. Gives the community a last opportunity to take a look at the budget, go over some key facts, and then the board to ask any questions they may have at this point. So just the quick facts off the top. The first thing is, what is going to be the budget for next year? $349,999,000. That is a $9.6 million increase over our current year budget, which represents 2.83 budget to budget. And our 11-year average budget to budget is 1.8. So the first question you might have is, why is this year disproportionately higher than a normal year? It's a full percentage higher. And we'll see that when we get to the next slide that shows the expenditures. But primarily that 1% of 350 million is about 3.5 million. Most of it is related to the lengthening of the secondary day and the adding of the 9th period. And that budget is supported in part by a tax levy. Primarily in this district, we have 2 forms of revenue. 60% roughly is tax levy from our taxpayers, and 40% is roughly state aid. So the tax levy for next year is a 2.07% increase, just over 2%, but it is within the 2% tax cap at $203,636,000. And here the 11-year average is actually a little bit higher. It's about 2.7%. So we're actually coming in under that 11-year average. And that goes back to when the tax cap came into play back in the 12-13 school year. So I realize you probably can't see this at home, and probably even in your seats here in the audience it'd be difficult. But we're obligated to present the full budget in its 3 parts: administration, program, and capital. And we're actually only required to present it in the total numbers. Notice if we look on the website, you have the full line-by-line budget there, so you can actually delve into every single line of our budget, nearly 700 lines of it, so it's fully transparent. But if I could just draw your attention to 3 sections. So the top is administration. That's everything unrelated to instruction. The middle is program. That is all of our instruction, general ed and special ed, transportation, things of that nature. And the bottom section is called capital. That's buildings and grounds, the purchase of our buses, the capital projects, and any debt service we have. But if we just look at the 3 subtotals, you'll see that the subtotal on administration and on capital, there really is almost no change year to year. So when I say that there was a change going from one year to the other because of the 9-period day, you will see that that jump is in the program section where you'd expect to find it. Again, difficult to see from your seats, but general education is going from about 93.6 million to 96.5 million. So that's the addition of the necessary teachers for the lengthening of the day, as well as the lengthening of the contractual day for teaching assistants, aides, etc. But other than that, there's been really no material changes in the budget. All staff has been kept. All program has rolled from one year to the other. The big improvement for this year is going to be the 9-period day. And conversely, obviously, you have to balance the expenditure budget with the revenue budget. Revenue budget's in balance as well. Again, $349,999,000. I just give you the key categories of state aid, of total revenue. Up top are the primary components, the state aid, just like we spoke about. Property tax levy, the $203 million, And then our pilot payments, those are properties within the district that don't pay property tax, but they do pay a pilot fee to us in lieu of those taxes until those properties go on the tax rolls. And while they're paying pilots, that $1 million is actually a reduction to the levy. Because obviously, if we're getting monies from these other properties, we don't tax the taxpayer for them. And the bottom section is just really miscellaneous, is charges for service, uses of money, so that's the renting of our buildings, that's earning of interest, things of that nature, some miscellaneous revenues. We get some Medicaid reimbursements for those children that are eligible. And then the last category is utilization of fund balance and reserves. So we did use $3.4 million, or plan to use $3.4 million in the current year. Next year, that's going to grow to $6 million. And it really needs to grow to $6 million because we are growing the budget. We do know that state aid only grew by about 2%. So to grow the budget to accommodate the 9-period day, we do need to look at our reserves thoughtfully and utilize them to help us grow the budget. And down on the bottom just outlines which reserves we'd be pulling monies from. The Employer Retirement System Reserve, $3.2 million. That's to pay the employer contributions for the district. The Teachers Retirement System Reserve, the same thing. That $1.3 million is a little bit more than the year-to-year increase in the cost of the district, so it helps bridge that increase because the contribution percentage did rise. And the last piece is the Employee Benefit Accrued Liability Reserve at a maximum of $1.5 million. And I say maximum because that particular reserve can only be used for separation payments upon retirement. If there are retirees that are owed, whether it be sick time, vacation time, et cetera, that would come from this pool of money here. If there were expenses beyond the $1.5 million, we would need to absorb them within the budget. But if expenditures next year come below the 1.5, we would only draw from that reserve the amount we need to satisfy those obligations. Property taxes. This is the difficult one. This is the one that frustrates us as a district, frustrates the board. It's very difficult for us to be able to explain clearly, and obviously, most importantly, all of us taxpayers. Sachem is rather unique because Sachem has 3 different taxing jurisdictions. So the only thing that the board, the administration, and the taxpayers have any control over is the top section of my slide. So the current levy is $199,508,000. Next year, it's growing to $203 million. That's a 2.07% increase. That is the only thing that we have control over. That will be the levy. That's how much we will receive from the municipalities. You would think in the perfect world that your taxes would only rise by 2.07%, but that is not always the case. If all properties were assessed at full fair market value, it wouldn't be a problem. But each municipality has a different matrix of how they calculate assessed values. So what has to happen at this time of the year is the state will give us what is known as an equalization rate. And that calculation then helps us apportion the levy. So all I can use for today to explain to you what the change in taxes is going to be is the equalization rates that I have for the current year. And they don't change dramatically, but a slight change in percentage on numbers this large can shift quite a bit of the tax burden to a different side of town. And we have seen in the last 2 years where Islip has borne more of an increase than the other 2 municipalities. And again, it's not technically Islip's fault. The state reviews how the assessments are done, looks at total property values, and they're the ones, so it actually comes from New York State, the equalization rate that we use to make those calculations. So if we just go by what we know today, the average increase on the average home, which again, the towns tell us what they consider to be the average home. That's what you see in the blue font down towards the bottom here. So a house that's about $400,000. They're saying, and this is just school taxes, not your full tax bill. They're saying that the average annual change for each taxpayer is roughly about $137, so just shy of $140. And with today's equalization rates, the Brookhaven side of town will receive a tax bill of 62.84% of that $203 million, Islip 33.57%, and Smithtown 3.59%. When we do get the final numbers in the fall, those percentages are going to slightly change. And it may only change in the tenths or the hundredths of the percentage in the distribution. But when you're changing a $200 million number by a small percentage, it can shift more of the tax burden from one side of town to the other. So I know that's not a great answer, but that is why it is frustrating. That's why, and unfortunately, the school district's phone number is the only number on the tax bill when you receive it. So when you call, you are calling my office. So we do our best to go through the tax bill and explain it to you. But even the assessor's office can't necessarily give you the answer. They can tell you what the calculation is for your assessed value, but they can't even give you the information behind the scenes on where the state came up with the equalization rate. I know this is always a question from the board. Does anybody have anything specific, or did I go through it in enough depth? Yep, we're good. All right. So we went through this slide last time. This is just some of the key highlights for this year's budget. As we just said a few moments ago, maintains all staffing to support the students' needs, provides the funding necessary to grow the budget to lengthen the secondary day at all 5 buildings. It provides funding for 26 additional teaching positions in a wide variety of disciplines like we see here: math, science, foreign language, business, music, art, technology, and family and consumer sciences. Continued funding for replacement equipment in departments district-wide. Now, you might remember that a couple of months back, we did move some monies within this budget. So some of the things that were in this original draft budget, we're purchasing now, or we're utilizing the federal grant dollars through Ms. Hines' office and purchasing them that way. That also then gave us a little bit of room within next year's budget to absorb that growth from the 9-period day. Continued funding for capital expenditures. And the bottom is really all the items that are in this year's budget. We know we're completing the replacement of all of our buses. So next year, there'll be 6 new buses, 3 large, 3 small. That will complete our entire replacement of our fleet. And it'll probably be another 8 to 10 years before we start that process over again. And again, probably very similarly, 5 or 6 buses a year until we change it over. The part that might change with that is we might be obligated at that point in time to go fully electric. So that'll remain to be seen. And I'm sure that that deadline will probably move over time, but that needs to be on our mind that at some point, school buses are required to go full electric. So we're doing a parking lot reconfiguration at Sagamore. Sagamore Phase 3 on our bathroom renovation, Samoset Phase 2 on bathrooms. You might recall that the secondary bathrooms throughout the district, for the most part, are original. The board had toured those bathrooms over the summer, and that was one of the key things that we came back and added to this year's capital project list. We're doing PA, or public announcement system, replacements at 5 of our buildings. Ultimately, we'll end up changing at all the buildings, but these were the 5 highest priority, old analog systems that are prone to breaking down. You cannot get replacement parts for them, and the PA system is an integral part of the lockdown system, so we certainly want that to work properly. High School North, the ceiling and the lighting throughout the hallways in the building would be replaced. Our transportation garage, when it was constructed, is not long enough in the repair bays to fit a school bus. So in the winter, when they are working on a bus, they might not be aware, but to work on an engine of a school bus, the nose of the bus tilts forward. To tilt the nose forward, you actually have to have the bus hanging out of the back of the building about 8 feet. So they work all winter with the garage doors open. So we have put that up for a while, but since we are finishing our fleet upgrade, we'll be just adding a small section on the front of those 3 bays. We're replacing the fire alarm control panel systems in all buildings except East. And as I said, the school buses. And again, all of these items are within the budget. It is not a separate proposition. And even with this spending, which is about $9 million, we are still within the tax cap. And there we go. Just a quick glance at what the ballot looks like. So this year, there is only one proposition. You'll go to the voting booth, and you'll be voting on Proposition 1, which is approval of next year's school budget. And then on the reverse side, you'll be voting for up to 4 candidates for the Board of Education. We have 3 seats up this year that are full 3-year terms. And then we have 1 seat up this year that is just shy of a 1-year term. That term will actually start that evening and continue through June 30th of next year. And the way it's decided who gets that seat is the top 3 vote getters will get the full 3-year terms, and the person who comes in 4th out of the 8 will get that 4th term for the 1 year. And actually, if they're available and here that night, we'll get sworn in. And that's really all I had for this evening. Again, it was just a recap. Anybody that has any questions, certainly feel free to call me in my office, Dr. Pelletieri, or you can go to our website where all the budget information is there for your review. Thank you.
I'm going to open up to questions from the board. Mr. Kiernan,
Sure.
first.
John, just going back to the program increase of expenditures because of the 9-period day,
Correct.
and then we had to increase the revenue budget by $6 million from reserves to balance that.
Correct.
Okay. My question is, if everything stays the same in state aid and the property tax levy, even if it increases a little bit, that's going to be a reoccurring cost, no?
Yes, we are adding to operating expenditures so that we would hope it's going to be something we're going to have to wean off of over time. I mean, this year we were hit not only with the need to grow the budget, but we were also hit with a 12.5% increase in health insurance. That was one of the biggest drivers in our expenditure increase this year, nearly $3.5 million. Our health bill is about $40 million. Had health not gone up so high, we probably wouldn't need to have drawn as much from reserves. But we want to be mindful of not utilizing reserves on an ongoing basis for recurring expenditures. So this year we did budget 3.4 million, so basically 1% of our budget. And I know that's sometimes hard to have a picture in your head that $3.4 million is really a penny on a dollar. But in the size of our budget, that's what it comes down to.
So
$6 million.
It'll balance out over time. Is that?
Well, I mean, obviously over time, we're going to need to be mindful of that. We also need to be mindful of there are expenditures within the grants. We've expanded social workers and things of that nature, and we're going to want to watch that carefully over the next few years so we can bring those other expenditures that are recurring into the budget. So certain things, whether it be professional development or our Northwell program or any of those things, if they ended, district program would go on, it wouldn't change. But you would like to think that the other things that we've added over time in the grants will be able to absorb into the budget over time. And that could be just through normal attrition, through retirements or things of that nature. We do have nearly 1,100 teachers. So it wouldn't be uncommon in a given year for several to go out. And obviously when each one retires, even if you are replacing them in kind, there is a savings on each one of those retirements. So we're going to have to be mindful and watch it. But again, $6 million is about 10% of our current fund balance, but it's only about 1.7% of our budget. So while it is a very large number, in the scheme of our budget, it is actually a small number.
Any other questions from the board? John, just one question. Getting back to, you kind of touched upon the question I was going to ask, which was the federal funds that were received from the government. Other than social workers, and are there any programs that we have within SACHM that we're funding that we would normally fund through our regular budget?
What sort of additions have we had? E&L? There's been a couple of different programs we've added.
We don't really have a tremendous amount of staff in there, just because of what Mr. O'Keefe was saying. But we have things like our summer enrichment program. We've always had that in the past through our title grants, but this allowed us to open up K-12 and to make it free for our residents. So we may have to think about that in the years to come. But what we did in our grants right now is basically put in those one-time purchases, so that if, when they go away, not if, when they go away, that we don't have to worry about necessarily what's in those grants. Our title grants have been pretty consistent. So any staff, such as an additional TA, let's say, for example, for our E&L program, those are things that we know we could still maintain. And because of our surplus of our grant funds, we have not really used any of our general fund codes out of my office. So we do have quite a few backups, and we have been planning and will continue to plan for this.
So the concern that I think a lot of us have up here is that when those federal funds, a few years back during GEA, the Gap Elimination Act, a lot of federal money came in to keep people employed. And when that money got washed up and the state aid was not reimbursed, we had to lay off a lot of people. And what you don't want to happen is the $6 million that we're using in reserves now paired with the grant money, I'm glad to hear that we're using it on title, grant items, because then when it does expire, those title grants will just kick back in, and we'll be able to maintain those services. But you don't want to hit twice with use of reserves and loss of federal monies, because it
Correct.
can be devastating. So
Yes.
it's something that we're going
You
to
have
look
to be
at.
very thoughtful about it.
The second thing is capital projects. Budget passes, those capital projects that you mentioned here are all going to be funded by our capital reserve. So we would not be going out for a bond.
No, these projects this year will actually be funded completely through the budget, not the reserve. I think the strategy we chose this year is we'll put these projects within the budget. We have a little over $6 million in the reserve right now. We'll hold that because we do know that we want to go and launch a stakeholder committee to start taking a look at the athletic fields. There had been a desire for softball, baseball, and possibly multipurpose. I think that utilizing the capital reserves for an expenditure like that would be most appropriate, that we're not funding it through the budget. We're actually funding it through monies we've set aside and saved. So at year-end close, it would be my intent to shift funds to the capital reserve as part of closing the books, so that next year, as the planning goes on, if this is something that the board ultimately decides to do and go out with a Proposition 2 next year, just like we funded the turf fields at North and East, it's a one-shot expenditure. We're not incurring any debt on it. We're using monies that we already have, and there's no cost to the taxpayer. So if it's something that the community supports, then certainly they just come out and vote yes on Proposition 2 at no added cost to them.
Any other questions from the board?
Mr. Scavo, could I just add one piece, excuse me? Insofar as those federal grants, and we've talked about this, and I've lobbied several of our legislators in the idea that those funds need to be expended by 2025. Is that right, Mr. O'Keefe? 2025?
Well, there's different grants that have different
Each
expiration
year,
dates.
yeah. Some go off each year. And just the concern is that why build in that cliff, so to speak? Why not let that spread out a little further, 5 years, 10 years down the line? So that's something we've been asking since our legislative forum. We asked our legislators, and I continue to ask folks to put that in people's ears around. Let us expend that fund over a longer period of time so that we can hold on to those programs and staff and whatnot that's in there, not have to force it into the general fund immediately.
Any other questions, concerns? All right, so I see a motion to close the public hearing for the budget. All right, Ms. Wadowitz, second by Mr. Baumann. All in favor? All right, opposed? All right, motion's carried. And this brings us to our regular opening of the meeting. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Pelletieri for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, sir, very much. Appreciate that. And thank you for the public hearing. Mr. O'Keefe, outstanding as always. Appreciate it. I'm going to actually ask Ms. Hines to jump in here. My superintendent's report is really to echo Mr. Scavo's remarks at the outset. We talked about May is mental health. Actually, I'm going to say this first, and then we're going to turn it over to Ms. Hines. But while May is Mental Health Month, we have a lot going on this month. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week. I want to just give a shout out to our teachers and really appreciate all they do in our classrooms, outside our classrooms every single day. Last Sunday, May 1st, was National Principals Day. I don't know how they ended up on a Sunday, but luckily a friend of mine texted that so I could shoot out an email. My goodness, on a Sunday. But we thank our principals obviously as well. This Friday is Food Service Hero Day. Let's get that one out there as well. Let's thank our food service workers. And next week is Nurses Day, May 11th, Nurses Day. And is that, John, you know this, is it school or School Nurses Day? Even more of the people we love. So thank you very much to our school nurses. Been through a lot. Been through a lot these past couple of years, and certainly we thank them. So I got to make sure I keep a list of these things. I don't know how, Allison, you're going to have to help me keep these straight each year. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So Ms. Hines, not to make light of a subject, Mental Health Month, May, and I know we've done a lot of work around this. So would you mind talking about some of the resources, some of the things that we're doing in our buildings and how people can find help? Really important. Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. So overall, let's wear our green this month, not necessarily for St. Patrick's Day in March, but it is the color of mental health awareness. I'm going to share highlights today, but I just want to start by saying how very proud I am of our school district. Since the inception of our social emotional learning program, we have seen our program just really explode for our students, and especially over the past 2 years, just the amount of activities, supports, staff, programs, parents, everybody that's involved. Again, I just can't say enough how very proud we are of the program that we have. And when we talk about our SEL program, we're talking about our mental health staff, our psychs, our social workers, our guidance counselors, our school counselors, our drug and alcohol counselors. We also talk about our SEL chairs, so Mr. Chiaramonte and Ms. Gonzalez, and then of course our classroom teachers and our administrators, because really it's a whole team effort. So just to start out with some district-wide events, we have our social and emotional family newsletter. It will go out again next month. That goes to all families here in Sachem, and we give outside resources that are free, everything from articles to parent workshops to counseling. And we also talk about different parent workshops that we'll be hosting, and we have hosted. Just this past month, we had something around crisis intervention and signs to look for as a family, as well as school safety. And then next month will be social media safety awareness with our very own Mr. Wells at Cayuga. We know that mental health is something that we're seeing definitely in a decline with all the amount of devices and the amount of hours that our students are on it. So that's one not to be missed. Some other district events that we have. Project Kindness is one that you've heard of in the past, but this year we're going to have our very first middle school mashup, where our 5th grade students are going to go to their middle schools, and then our 8th graders will be going to the high schools, where they will be able to work with and collaborate and do some team activities to help with that anxiety and that stress of going into their next school year. We also have our Family Connect nights in May. It will be our family, community, and how when we work better together as a team, everyone wins. We also have Sachem Outdoor Chalk Murals going on this month, and they will be affirmations for positivity and mental health awareness, and that will be at all of our schools. Our school counselors, better known as our guidance counselors in the past, are using read-alouds to support students to advocate and feel comfortable to express their feelings, especially during times when they're having difficulties. And again, I'm just picking a few highlights from our schools. East is running a mental health awareness month. Here's their flyer. If you haven't seen it, we will be posting it to the district, and it has gone out to their families and to their students. They're doing a plethora of activities, such as thing as pledging to end the stigma around mental health awareness, T-shirts. They'll be doing sayings every single morning around home, during homeroom, that are uplifting and again just bring awareness to mental health, self-care challenges, and free giveaways. At North, they'll be holding roundtables with students on mental health with social workers at the school. They'll also be doing Sachem Happiness Bracelet fundraisers, book clubs from Corey Muscara. If you remember him, we had him come in for our staff at Superintendent's Conference Day around mindfulness and wellness practices. Seneca is also hosting their own campaign to support mental health. And again, looking at Ms. Salvia, I'm sure this went out to the families and is posted, and we will be posting on the district website. And again, they've hosted peer education activities. Their clubs are also hosting activities, mental health awareness activities throughout, and doing morning messages as well. Samoset, again, mindfulness presentation with speaker Steve Arenante. So very similar to Corey Muscara, club activities and guidance activities. And then last, for our elementary schools, just a smattering, Linwood, Hiawatha, and Waverly, again, yoga and mindfulness activities, mental health tip of the day, in PE classes, and social workers will be running activities with the students. And again, just to make everybody comfortable, to bring awareness, but also for our students, especially during this time, to feel like they have a safe haven, they have open, safe space to talk about anything that is happening in their life. And last, I just really want to give a kudos to Ms. Gonzalez, our North SEL chair. She is being published, in an article that she wrote, Become a Heart Teacher, in the SEL edition of School Arts Magazine. So we just want to congratulate her. But again, I just want to say how proud I am. Our little program that could years back is now a renowned program that many school districts reach out to us for. And just in this month alone, even though it's highlighted, these are things that go on all the time, but I couldn't be more proud of our schools and everything that we're doing for our students and our families.
Ms. Hines, thank you very much.
Sorry, I talk very fast.
No,
My
that
Irish in me.
you had a lot. You had a lot to say, And I'm glad that we had a lot to say about this subject and this topic. And it's more than just, hanging a sign or saying
awareness.
it's this or wearing a color. We have to walk that walk. We're going to talk that talk. So thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Hines, for that update. Brings us to the approval of minutes. Any motion to approve the minutes from April 27, 2022? Ms. Pickowitz, second. All right, Ms. Waterworth, any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, we're on the top of page 3, visitors. We have one visitor. Call him up, Mr. Barbera.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Pelletieri, Board Trustees, Administration, and Sachem community. I'm here tonight as the president of the SCTA on behalf of all the educational staff across Sachem to give a special thank you to Deputy Superintendent John O'Keefe for his immeasurable service to our school district. Purposely not looking at Mr. O'Keefe right now because I know he is not one who seeks or likes acknowledgement, and I know he's probably very mad at me right now. I've always known Mr. O'Keefe to be driven by a desire to solve problems. Let's be honest, not too long ago, Sachem had a huge financial problem. And upon his arrival, he immediately got to work to fix it. For years, Mr. O'Keefe has found ways to improve Sachem's buildings that were in desperate need of upgrades, completely upgrade our technology infrastructure, purchase devices for students and staff, and strengthen our reserves. What makes this even more incredible, an incredible accomplishment, is how he did this over the years by never piercing the New York State 2% tax cap and always being mindful of the financial impact on our community. I know from our conversations that he has always been laser focused on every dollar spent at Sachem. I'm incredibly proud to say that I have worked with him over the last 4 years, and admittedly, I will miss you. I want to wrap up by mentioning one more thing. Right now, as we all sit here, there's a student working on a project, writing an essay, or studying for an exam on a Sachem Chromebook, and that's because of you. Today, there were student athletes running on new turf fields or on a new gym floor with their teammates because of you. There are parents enjoying the soothing sounds of their child practicing their brand new instrument, and this is also because of you. But most importantly, there is a child waiting to start kindergarten that has no clue that all these amazing things are awaiting them. And it's all because of your focus on our students' future. We know that it takes a village to raise a child, and you played an incredible role for our school community. School districts can think and dream and plan all they want, but without sound financial backup and support, none of that can really happen. If you actually ever ask Mr. O'Keefe how he accomplished all this, he will simply say, I just go to work. Mr. O'Keefe, because of your tireless effort, your pencil and eraser, and your calculator, Sachem is a better school district for our current and future students. Thank you again. On behalf of the Sachem Central Teachers Association, we wish you good luck.
Thank you, Ms. Barbera. Ms. Panarelli?
Thank you very much, Board and Superintendency. My name is Rose Panarelli. I live at 88 Jims Trail in Bayport. I'm part of the 148-unit 55 and over development that has recently been completed. We do pay, as a 55 and over community, we do pay full school taxes through the town of Islip. It's not your issue, and it's not really why I'm here. The reason why I'm here is because many of our community, we're professionals. I'm a retired school teacher myself, but we get no information from the Sachem School District. I have in our mailing, I get Bayport Blue Point Public School District and all the information from that school district, yet we get no information from Sachem, and I just don't understand why our address, even though we're in the Sachem School District, but we're in Bayport in the town of Islip. So I wish somebody could look into that because we would like to know. I know it's on the website and all the information, but it would be good for our community to know what's going on in the Sachem School District. And my second comment is that some of my neighbors have tried to vote in the local election, in the school board election, and have at different times been told that they weren't on the rolls. So we're not really sure why that happens. I haven't been voting. I haven't, had an opportunity to vote yet in the district. I just moved there myself, but intend to. So I just don't know why that's not happening. That's my only comment.
We may actually have an answer right now.
Yes, so your entire community was slated under the Bayport School District, and last year they looked it up and redistricted you. So your entire community, all of the streets within it, are scheduled to vote at Merrimack Elementary. So everyone within your whole complex would vote at Merrimack now.
Allison, would they get our flyers now and whatnot as well?
That I would have to look into to see how the postal routes go, because
So
I
we
know
have
that
her
our
address, right? I have your address? So
right,
I'll
our
give that to you.
postal routes might not head there, but we can certainly look to fix that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Panarelli. Tonight, for the first section, brings us to item 5, personnel. We have a consent agenda, A through P for teachers. Any motion, please? Ms. Baumann, second. Mr. Reynolds, any questions, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Ms. Kippoliden?
So on tonight's agenda, the board just approved several folks, teachers for probationary positions. Some were unable to be here tonight due to other commitments. However, we want to welcome back to the fold Mr. Scott Tierney, Sachem grad. Congratulations on your probationary appointment.
Congratulations, Mr. Tierney. Okay. Item 6, we have personnel consent agenda A through E, which is support staff. And a motion, please. And Mr. Reynolds, second. All right, Mr. Baumann, any questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Ms. Kippoliden?
On tonight's agenda, we also just had the board approve 2 of our senior office assistants, Miss Grace Agunzo over at High School North and Miss Diana Carone over in the personnel office. Miss Carone is the senior, meaning the clerical who's been in the personnel office the longest so far. She's always behind the scenes, making sure that all the details with regards to staff are taken care of, and a collective team member within personnel and HR services. We'd like to thank her for her services over the last number of years. She was also an OSS for special education for many years before that, and a congratulations on her retirement in July. And Grace Agunzo, Grace, I had the pleasure of working with when I was an AP at North as well. She's an amazing baker, for those of you who are not aware of that. And she has an awesome sense of humor. And she was also integral in making sure that each of the graduations at High School North went off without a hitch. So congratulations to Grace Agunzo, and thank you to both of them for a job well done for many years.
Brings us to item 7, which is personnel consent agenda A through C. For administrators, we're on the bottom of page 9. It continues on page 10. Any motion, please? Mr. Reynolds, second by Ms. Slattery. Any questions or concerns? Mr. Reynolds?
John, just a quick question on the SAA agreement. I read through the MOA, and just more for process of my own edification. Who does sort of the quality versus what we've all agreed to and it actually gets in the document? I've read it. It seems like everything's there, but just curious as to what that process is. Is that you? Is it the attorneys? How does that work?
It's actually all of us.
Everybody,
Dr.
okay.
Pelletieri, Ms. Capel-Eden, myself, counsel, we all go through it, double check all of our notes. Obviously, once we're done with the document, then it's shared with the unit.
Yep.
The unit checks it from their end, their counsel checks it. And then when everyone's in agreement, obviously, we bring the MOA forward for the board.
Yep, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. So a motion and a second. Any other questions? No? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
So out in our audience today, we have Phil Torregrossa. Phil has just been appointed in a probationary position in the title Assistant to the Director of Health, Physical Education, Health Services, and Athletics. He's got a lot going on in his household these days. He has done a fabulous job.
as an interim appointment in that role, and he worked feverishly to make sure he had everything that he needed to get done so we could put him into place in this probationary spot. Congratulations, Phil.
Phil, did the baby come yet? By Friday. You better get out of here. You better go. Go get some sleep. Well, you already have a baby, so you're not sleeping.
It brings us to item 8, contracts. We have a consent agenda, 8, A through J. Any motion, please? Ms. Waterer, second by Mr. Baumann. Questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. All right, brings us to the bottom of page 13, which is item 9, field trips. Any motion, please? Mr. Baumann, second. Mr. Reynolds. Questions, concerns from the board? And all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 10 is donations. We have a donation from Cuyahoga Elementary School PTA. A motion, please. Mr. Reynolds, second. Ms. Pigowitz. Questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Dr. Pillar, if you get a thank you note out to the Cuyahoga PTA, thanking them for their donation, be great. Item 11, budget transfers. We need a motion for item 11, budget transfer, approval of budget transfer of 50,000 or greater. Motion, Mr. Baumann, second. Mr. Reynolds. Questions or concerns before we put it to a vote? Mr. O'Keefe, could you just explain what that is for the community?
Sure. It is a budget transfer for about $1.2 million. In the recent Friday packet, I gave you a memo related to that. So we're utilizing some funds within the current year budget. One small portion of it is some building supplies for our facilities department. The administration wing here at Samoset is getting a new roof this summer. On that roof are all of the old condenser units for the mini splits that are in all the offices. They all need to be removed for the roof to be replaced. So $125,000 of this is to actually purchase new equipment, so that when we're done putting on the roof, we can install new equipment on the roof. And that way we're not going back over time and putting new penetrations in our brand new roof, et cetera. The big portion, $1.1 million, is actually sort of a grant we're getting from E-Rate. So E-Rate was actually one of the contracts you just approved for next year. They took a look at all of our telecommunications related bills, and there is a process for districts to go through to apply through the FCC for grant dollars from the federal government. Mr. Renda and Mr. Sachs, working through Integra, wrote a grant for the district, and were awarded a maximum of $1.9 million. And looking at what we could actually utilize it on, because it had to be spent with a certain period of time to a certain population of students, we're afforded $1.1 million of that total award. So what's going to happen is we're buying 3,300 Chromebooks for students in grades 3 through 5, for students who do not have a device at home. And we'll get those units in over the summer, hopefully. And since it is a reimbursement program, we're laying out the $1.1 million, and then we'll get a reciprocal $1.1 million in revenue. So actually, it'll have no impact on fund balance. It's not like we're spending down another $1.1 million. Yes, we're spending it today, but in the next few weeks or months, we'll get reimbursed for those expenditures, just like other grants.
If I could just jump in there for a second, maybe Mr. Renda and Mr. Sachs, we should get them a certificate and a picture. I mean, it really outstanding to work with Mr. O'Keefe and to pull that off. And just think about this district now, right? 3 through 12, one-to-one devices for our students. The older devices will go down to K1 and 2. We'll be virtually K to 12 with devices. We have to be careful, right? We talk about screens and things like that, but it is the tool that we use when we educate our kids, the tool that we use in the world today, and to be able to get them in the hands of our youngest kids, and to be able to get a grant for over $1 million to support that really outstanding work, and we thank them.
Thank you so much. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay. Item 12 is Committee on Special Education. We have consent agenda A and B for the dates of April 28th, 29th, May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Any motion, please? All right, Ms. Baumann, second by Ms. Wadewa. Questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Brings us to monthly reports. I'll open up to the board. Any monthly reports, Ms. Slattery?
On May 11th, right, John? May 11th, we have our audit committee meeting, and John sent us the report, but basically our auditors found no findings, so we'll discuss it, but if you want to fill
Sure.
everybody in.
The meeting will actually have both of our auditors present. The external auditor will be on hand to go over the process for the annual year-end audit that'll kick off over the summer. And the second audit is being done by our internal auditors. This year, the item that was chosen for analysis was benefits throughout the district, because it does encompass basically 25% of the district's entire budget. After pouring through a tremendous amount of information, literally over months at a time, I mean, Ms. Capel-Eden's office and the payroll office had to provide literally thousands of documents for them to pour over. There was not a single finding. There was not one benefit that was provided in error. Everything was found to be in good order. The only suggestion that they had is just some language changes in some of the collective bargaining agreements related to dental benefits, which is, a minor citation, but it will require for me to write a corrective action plan that'll get worked on over time. So we'll go over that report in depth, and then it'll be presented to the board for review and adoption in the following board meeting.
And just to echo Mr. Barbera's sentiments, I've worked with Deputy Superintendent O'Keefe on the audit committee since he's come here. He's become a mentor to me in understanding the budget. I know I always get emotional at meetings, but as many of people in Sachem, you develop friendships and working relationships. He's a person that I've trusted, has done so much for our district in such a short period of time. And this will be my last audit committee meeting with him. And I just want to say from everybody on the audit committee how much we appreciate everything you've done, how you've listened, how you've looked at everything, and really, really will be missed here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Slattery. Mr. Reynolds?
Just a quick question to the board. Who else is on the audit committee, Laura, besides yourself from the board? Jim? Okay.
And I think
Mike is, okay. Yep, thank you. That's it.
Any other board committee reports? No? Okay. Closing with public comment. We don't have, Allison, we don't have any speakers? Okay. Future board discussion items? Any from the board? No? Oh, I'm sorry. We have state testing and field testing. Okay. So I'm going to turn over to Dr. Pelletieri to introduce this.
Actually, I'm not certain who requested this. Thank you, Ms. Pigowitz. Go ahead, jump right in.
So about a month ago, I had brought up the discussion to have about writing a letter in terms of our 3 to 8 state testing, which then Mr. Bauman brought on about Regents exams and kind of then led to APPR. We as a board collaborated with Dr. Pelletieri. Ms. Salvia is actually here, our SAA, and Mr. Barbera with our SCTA, to write a letter to the state, asking to reevaluate, look at better ways to maybe collect data from our students, looking at a better way to evaluate our educators, and then evaluate the importance and the Regents exams. I believe at this point we have not received any communication from the state. Okay. So for me, I believe in education, it's all about collaboration. And we prove that here in Sachem, we collaborate to bring all those units together to discuss things that are going to better our system for our students. I think it's just frustrating to me that we haven't gotten a response. So when I received the letter that we are going to open for field testing, kind of struck a nerve a little bit with me for the fact that if the collaboration is not going to happen, why are we taking more time away from our students? I know it was only 40 minutes, but in the last 2 years, if we think about how much time our students lost, 40 minutes is 40 minutes. I would love 40 more minutes with my students. Constantly spiraling back to topics that are 2-3 grade levels prior to where they were. Students who are already 1 or 2 grade levels behind are now even further behind. And then to kind of take this time to give the state assessments, let alone then field test. I know it's to improve. I get that piece, but when we're not having conversations about, what is really the best thing for our students at this point? The pandemic really shook education. And the only thing that I was hoping that would come out of this is that we were going to reevaluate at what we're doing and what's going to be best for our students. I still feel like we're offering a curriculum that is developmentally inappropriate. Our kindergartners are expected to reach standards that used to be first and second grade. I teach sixth grade math, and I used to teach seventh grade honors. So I taught honors, which kids were sixth grade were taking seventh grade math, and I taught double accelerate at one point. And I saw topics that used to be in eighth grade curriculum trickle to sixth grade. And I had to find ways to take a sixth grade student who was already struggling in math to understand a concept that was beyond what they were developmentally able to understand. And there are students who did it, got it, great. But now here we are with a pandemic. There is learning loss. Some kids are struggling more than others. And I just feel like the fact that we are now taking that time away from our students with field testing without the state responding to us and having some collaboration with us and having some open communication and dialogue, it just kind of set a nerve for me. And I know other people on the board feel similarly to that. So I just wanted to kind of voice my opinion and concern, and that, I want the dialogue. I want to see improvement. I still want to collect data. Testing is important. We need to see where our kids are at. But I just feel like there are better ways, and I would like to have that open dialogue and listen to our teachers, our administrators, and find what's going to be best for our students and what is really going to help our students get what they need to succeed and get on the right path into whatever direction they're going, whether it's, college or career, that we want to make sure that we're doing what's best for them. And I don't know, I'm just kind of a little bit unhappy with the way that we're not kind of looking at new ways, not Sachem, I'm saying the education system in New York State in general.
Ms. Slattery has a question, and then we'll go to Ms. Waterway after.
So Sabrina, I 100% agree with you. As a parent of a special education student who graduated from Sachem, at the time he graduated, he was expected to pass 5 regions to get a diploma. There was no local diploma. There was no other option for him. His IQ is below 80, and yet through the hard work of everybody, he passed 5 regions and is now holding a full-time job with benefits. And that's a testament to everybody here. But the stress that it put on him, our family, his teachers, and everybody to have to pass 5 regions, to have to take state tests before really the opt-out movement began, that there was no way those tests should have been in front of him. He should have been taking them. Again, I agree with you. That takes away from learning. His teachers know the best how to evaluate him. They know how to test him. He obviously would never do well on a standardized test. I don't think, for me, that is a way to evaluate anybody, student or teacher. That's how I met a lot of people, was when we were going to the state for opt-out and for fighting for that. I still believe that. I'll always believe that's a passion of mine. And as I told anybody in my family, my neighbors, whatever, just because your kid can sit and take a test and do well, does that mean my son can? If you agree that my son should not be taking the same test as your child, the only way to make a change is for everybody to stop taking the test. That's the answer. So there has to be a better way. I know our teachers, I know our administrators, everybody knows there's a better way. And I know it was not a good way for my son, and it was not a good place for our family to be in. And we're very lucky that he was even able to do that. Otherwise, he would not have been able to hold a job. And that's the bottom line. So if it's not good for every kid, then it should not be good for any kid. And that's where we should all stand. And thank you, Sabrina, for bringing that up.
Ms. Waterway?
So the field tests aren't mandatory. Like, we don't have to give them, administer them.
We are just like the
It's
regular.
not a question. I know we don't have to.
Yeah.
So like a district, I think it was Tom Swab or Pat Med, they boxed them up and sent them back. Why can't we do the same?
So my opinion on that, or thought process around that, is we wrote a letter to the state saying that there's something wrong with the tests and we need to fix them. We need to fix the assessment system in New York State. And the way the state fixes the assessment system is by doing field tests, by sending out practice tests to see if they're going to work or not. If there are questions in there that will be better questions to assess our students. When we take those tests and just box them up and send them back, then we're not part of that conversation around trying to make them better. So that's my thought process there. That's what I shared with the board as well when we talked about field tests. We just take them, box them up, send them back. Then we're doing what the state is doing to us now, as Ms. Pickowitz said, is not having that conversation, not participating. We all need to come to the table and participate and fix this system that is so incredibly disrupted over the past 2 years. Now is the opportune time to do this. But it seems like we're destined to go right back into what we were doing. And that is really going to be a calamity if we do that.
I just think if they want to use our kids to test their product, maybe they should give our kids some money for that. Kind of like those when you go for those studies, they give the compensation. I just don't think it's right to use our kids as guinea pigs.
Chris, do we ever get feedback from the state as to decisions that they make? So when those field tests go back to the state and they evaluate the data, they put together these questions into future tests.
Correct.
Do they ever come back to us and say, well, look, this is how the students did on the exam. This is the direction we're going in. Or did they just take the data and just put it into an exam and force it to us?
They review the assessment data that they get, and then those ones that they test out that they feel are worthy of or valuable enough or valid and reliable enough questions, they'll put into future exams. But we don't necessarily get that data that says these 4 questions we asked were found to be we're going to put in the next test, and these 8 we're not. We don't get that data.
So other than the testing, our feedback doesn't matter in the whole process. Look, if you're around long enough, and I think Mr. Cannon and Slattery knows this, when they hit us with these field tests, okay, and there's no feedback provided, okay, and we lose 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours for a pilot test, okay, as a teacher, you know that, look, you could have a fire drill and be out on the sidewalk for 20 minutes, and that 20 minutes on the sidewalk throws off your entire week for what you want to complete and what you want to get done. So when they hit us with a field test for 40 minutes, what you plan on completing in your plan book doesn't always happen, and if my personal opinion, and having gone through this many, many times, if they're not going to make us part of the decision, they're not going to make us part of what actually ends up in their, in their exams, I would be that if it's not a mandatory thing, we maybe shy away from it.
Mr. Scarborough, we don't take part in any of the assessment piece. We don't put any of the tests together. So I think your argument would be then we shouldn't take part in the assessment at all.
The assessments are mandatory.
Yeah,
the
no,
field tests aren't.
My concern is that we don't really have a say in what questions, and nor do they.
We
provide us
definitely
with-
do not.
And they don't provide us with any feedback either as to, well, listen, this is what we're going to be putting in. Maybe you should focus on these topics next year because there's a good chance you're going to see.
But certainly our teachers do that when we have field tests for upcoming regions. We have new regions this next year. And certainly we see that field test as a glimpse into what might be, and we start to look at those things. But I certainly hear what you're saying.
Yeah, the other concern, like I said, is the further you get into your career is supposed to get easier, and it's getting harder and harder. And what we find is that there's less time to complete what you want to complete in the 180 days that you have the kids. So me personally, every minute, okay, is important to completing what you need to complete for that week, and then to get the kids and stay on track, get them ready for the following year. So that's my only concern. I would agree with Ms. Pickowitz as well as that.
Yeah, hold on, just a quick question. So
Mr. Reynolds,
I don't have a copy of the letter. I was trying to look for it, but I don't recall asking to fix the assessment. I thought the letter read something about let us assess our kids our way, right? I think that's what the
It was
letter
both.
said.
It was both. We
Right?
did say we need to, now is the time to try to fix this system.
Ms. Baumann?
I doubt they asked the teachers their opinion when they did away with the RCTs for the special ed kids. But I thought, didn't that letter have something to do with also waiving the tests one more time for this June?
For this year, we asked them not to count the regions, yes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, this year was disrupted. These kids, a lot of them were quarantined, even the ones that weren't quarantined with the masks. It's just ridiculous that they're making them take this test. And I teach special ed English, 11th grade. So I'm teaching towards the Regents. And I'm concerned. I'd be concerned on a normal year.
Yes.
This year, yeah. So.
Can I just speak?
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Just one, because I'll lose it. Sorry, Laura, I don't mean to cut you off.
Okay.
Field testing, the problem I have with it, it doesn't benefit our kids. If you told me you were taking 40 minutes away from my child to bring them to an assembly, to bring them outside to play, anything that's good for their soul, anything, or just do, practice more skills, play a math game, I would have no problem with that. My problem is I truly believe as an educator, the field tests do not benefit the children, and it's just to put more questions in a packet. As an educator, I can't talk about the tests. I'm not even allowed to proctor my own students when the math assessment is there. I just don't see how growth comes from that. And in districts that, struggle already or have different socioeconomic statuses, we know what the scores are going to be, and it's not helping. We're doing the same thing year after year and getting the same results. We have to be a part of that change. And Sachem is great. I mean, look, again, that letter we wrote, how many people we brought together, and there's still no change happening on the state side. So for me, as the field test, it's like, listen, we're fine. We'll help benefit. We'll try to improve these things, but you're taking time away from our children for benefit, in a productive way. And I know it's only a couple classes, a couple grades here and there, but it's still 40 minutes out of their time that benefits them, where I feel like the field test doesn't benefit the student.
Okay.
Do Miss Slattery first. She's been waiting.
Okay. So Dr. Pelletieri, no offense, but I do not trust New York State ever to make the right decisions for educating when it comes to assessments and tests. It's about money. It's about putting tests in front of kids to make money. It's not about helping them grow. It's not about helping them learn. It, at the end of the day, is about money. The field tests are not about helping make tests better. Honestly, if they were, the tests would have been better already. This has been an ongoing battle. I do not trust New York State to make any decisions as far as what is the best way to test our students at all. That includes the field test. That's not part of the process to change, because honestly, they're never going to change. So I think the way to change is just like I said before. If enough people refuse to take the test, if enough districts box up the field tests and send them back and say, we're not doing this. We want our teachers, our students to be tested in our way, because the state does not know what's best for Sachem students. At least they didn't know what was best for mine.
Mrs. Baumann?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say with future field testing, that really comes back to the board, and we decide whether or not if we're not obligated to do it, decide whether or not it's a valued, effort to, the time that we take away from the kids, moving forward, because they said it's always a hot topic in Sachem, and especially now with COVID, the amount of education that was lost. And look, we still have, at least in my school, we still have quarantine going on. We still have kids that are out
It's still
for 5
happening,
days.
without a doubt.
So, you throw that into the mix of it too. Every minute is very, very important during the educational day to make sure our kids are brought up to speed. So, I guess we can continue this conversation moving forward with all future pilot exams.
Sure.
Determine whether or not we want to continue on with them. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other future discussion items moving forward from the board? Okay. Bruce, that brings us to our closing. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 17th, which is our annual budget vote, okay, and our Board of Education vote. At this particular time, I need a motion to go into exec session to discuss personal matters on employees made to the known to the board. Mr. Baumann, second. Mr. Reynolds. All right, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Have a good evening, everyone.